We are developing contingency plans in case something happens. The federal government has asked us to develop emergency energy conservation plans for times of shortage between adequate supplies and somewhere less than 20% shortage.
Now 20% being the cutoff where the government steps in with the plan that has been formulated in Washington?
Yes, the President has authority when he foresees a shortfall of 20% for 30 days or more to implement gasoline rationing. Now, we have been developing plans between now and rationing to try and see how we could reduce consumption in Alabama in times of shortage.
What kinds of things have you come up with that might help us get through that type of period?
Well, basically, we're responding to what the federal government has suggested, and these are stricter enforcement of the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, or possibly even lowering the speed limit. One of the big parts is a public information program to let the public know what the facts are. Because I believe that if the public knows what the shortages really are and doesn't believe someone's playing games with them, that they respond quite well. We have minimum purchase and not even plans, but these only reduce the length of lines. We're looking at employer-based commuter and travel plans where employers will encourage their employees to form carpools, maybe subsidize bus transportation or use mass transit where it's available to get to work. Possibly a compressed work week where you might go to a 4-day work week to eliminate the extra day of commuting. A vehicle sticker plan where if the shortage were deemed enough where you'd have to leave your car home 1 or 2 days a week, the individual would select the days of the week when they would not drive their car, and they would have a sticker to put on their car saying this car should not be on the road Monday and Tuesday or something like that. I like this one because it gives the individual a choice. Somebody doesn't say you can't drive on weekends or you can't drive on Tuesdays.
Or would you pick your own 2 days you don't
Right.
drive or your own 1 day?
Right. And right now, we're getting into pre-implementation planning for rationing. This is at the federal government's request. We are responding to a solicitation from DOE that says they want us to get ready for rationing, to set up local boards. Now, we'll be working with the Associated Industries of Alabama, with the business and industrial community and the general public to try and figure out if we ever did go to rationing, what is the best way to set up local boards to meet the needs of the people.
Going to seek the death penalty, and every crime in Alabama is determined by a white district attorney. Of a regenerated criminal justice system, which no longer discriminates.
Killing, violence is wrong, and that's why I say I hope that this upcoming revitalization of the moral strength of this nation, which says that crime is wrong.
Who has said that we must no longer fear racial discrimination in the imposition of the death penalty. We strongly refute such an assertion, while we find it painful to repudiate the opinion of one we love and respect, as we do Mr. Justice Adams, who has attained this high office which he richly deserves. Nevertheless, our responsibility to conscience and our calling as advocates of the poor and defenders of justice demand that we cry out against that which denies the moral imperatives of our faith and ignores the lessons of history.
Punishment be used as a tool against those who are
Of the heart, from the back of a 15-year-old.
We're talking about a mass murderer who killed many, many people.
Tallapoosa Bridge authorities who own the 350-ton structure say they don't know how or why the bridge collapsed. A neighbor heard the bridge falling in about 11 o'clock last night. Owners say they won't be able to repair the newly remodeled bridge that opened last March. The bridge was a shortcut for nearly 200 people who crossed it daily going to Montgomery to work from Elmore County. Those who once crossed the single-lane bridge paid a 50-cent toll and saved about a 40-mile round trip each day. The structure was built in 1917, remodeled in 1979 at a cost to the Tallapoosa Bridge Authority of over $100,000, and opened this past March. But now, owners say the only thing they can do is try to sell what's salvageable of the 300-foot bridge and hope the state will make plans to build a bridge near there in the near future. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News, Cook Station, Alabama.
Ed, at a time when a lot of people have really kind of put the gas situation behind them or to the side and haven't been thinking about it too much, the Alabama Department of Energy is really worrying about it, really planning for the future, and really looking into the possibility of A, higher gas prices, and B, shortages down the road. What kinds of things do you see that might cause us to have problems in the near future in terms of gasoline?
Well, one of the first things that comes to mind is the war in the Middle East, the current war between Iran and Iraq. This has caused a shortage of petroleum production in the world, and I believe the exported production from Iran and Iraq amounted to about 4 or 5 million barrels a day. Because of this shortfall, the stocks worldwide have been gradually being drawn down. And I've seen estimates that if the war continues and production is not resumed, that it's possible we could see some shortages by the third quarter of 1981, next summers.
What kind of shortages might we be looking at if nothing else happened but the war continues? What kind of shortages do you think in terms of percent?
I hate to put a figure on it. I don't think it would be as high as 10%. I think it would be less than that. I think it would be shortages that we could manage, particularly in Alabama. In I believe it was 79 when we had the truck strike, we were also short because of Iran stopping production, and the people responded quite well. They seemed to pace themselves, cut back on their driving and eliminate unnecessary trips.
The people here in Alabama.
Yes. And I think if they continue to do that, we could manage with any shortages that do crop up as a result just of the Iran-Iraq war, unless something else happens. I'd have to wait and see.
Tony Harrelson says he just wants to get better so he can start playing college football again. Officials say an officer fired at Harrelson after he pointed a rifle at police. They were searching the Shadow Lane site where Harrelson was staying at the time. Police say they were looking for a car thief suspect whom they thought was in the area. Harrelson says his only comment about the whole ordeal is that he had been asleep and didn't know what was going on outside the house. He says he will make a complete statement as soon as he's well. Right now, Harrelson says he's recuperating, but still in a lot of pain. Jane Matheson, WSFA TV News.
I'm going to enjoy it. My sister lives in Dallas, but it will be a game for pride because it's our last game. For the seniors, it's our last game for the University of Alabama. We've been playing it 4 years, so we will always have this game to look back on. You know, our regular season is over. The other point is that we're not playing for nothing. We're not conference champions. We're not playing for a national championship. I said, well, somebody else has to play for it. You know, it's just not our turn to play this year. But it's still a game that has left to be played because we beat Baylor the previous season 45-0, something that they've been thinking about for a whole year. And every team that has beaten Baylor last year, Baylor has avenged that loss upcoming to this game right here. So it will be a lot of pride put on the line because this is an Alabama football team. Champions of our conference. But we're Alabama, and we want to prove that to Baylor again.
Of the moral strength of this nation, which says that crime is wrong.
Who has said that we must no longer fear racial discrimination in the imposition of the death penalty. We strongly refute such an assertion. While we find it painful to repudiate the opinion of one we love and respect, as we do Mr. Justice Adams, who has attained this high office which he richly deserves, nevertheless, our responsibility to conscience and our calling as advocates of the poor and defenders of justice demand that we cry out against that which denies the moral imperatives of our faith and ignores the lessons of history.
Punishment be used as a tool against those who are
Of the heart, from the back of a 15-year-old.
We say we're talking about a mass murderer who killed many, many, many people.
It's unified because we try to, through the Constitution and the laws, make the court's operation the same whether you live in Mobile, Montgomery, or Huntsville, Alabama.
Is this unusual compared to other states?
It is, but the growing trend in the country is to unify court system or to make them the same, because citizens are entitled to the same kinds of laws and reliefs and procedures irrespective of where they live. So our courts have a degree of sameness. In other words, we have a district court in every county, we have a circuit court, and we have, of course, appellate courts that review cases in the trial court. The procedures are the same. So if you're caught for speeding, then the rules of procedure and who you go before to try that case are unified and uniform.
The system here in Alabama, how do you feel about its effectiveness compared to other states? Do you think that we are running ahead of other states in our court system, behind? What's your judgment on that?
We are very proud of our unified court system. It's been in effect almost 4 years. It's obvious that we had to do some modernization and some changes. We've made those changes. We've been through a period of testing it out. It is working well. It is by no means perfect, but when we try to compare it to other states, we think we are ahead of the other states in terms of efficiency and accountability and fairness and justice. So we're very proud of our new court system, and we work very hard in terms of gaining and maintaining the confidence and the understanding of our citizens.
What kind of things have you seen change with the implementation of this new code, and what kind of things do you think will change?
It's really too soon to be definitive, but we do know this, as in the case in the history of every state and every country, certain matters have become archaic or out of date. This new criminal code, which was worked on for many, many years, has modernized criminal laws so that now you don't go back to the horse and buggy days. That's going to cause some problems, and some of us in the judging and law enforcement and as lawyers, we're going to have to learn some new things. And the criminal code is going to have an impact on the criminal justice system, both at the trial level, when the case is first tried, as well as at the appellate level when that case is reviewed. But by and large, it's a forward, important piece of legislation that the legislature adopted in order to assist in the criminal justice system, and I think it's a good law.
That's the criminal side of it. Right. Of course, most of us, when we come into contact with the courts, it's on the civil side. Is there that kind of forward movement on the civil side, or is that sitting still while the criminal side moves ahead?
No, really, the civil side has already moved forward. For the past 10 years, more efficient procedures have been begun, more simplified procedures, so that the case, and this is very, very important, we have rules of procedure. And rule number 1 says that these rules are designed so that you have an efficient procedure so that the case is decided on the merits of the case. That's the issue, rather than on technicalities and pleadings, as has been the criticism in past years. So civil is pretty much modernized and is very liberal in terms of permitting citizens to come into court and to stay in court and not be thrown out.
A light snowfall like the one we had yesterday can still cause roads, and especially bridges, to get icy. Montgomery Police Department's bypass detail, who worked the more heavily traveled roads yesterday, says it's best not to drive at all during snowy conditions. For the ones willing to brave the ice and snow, traffic officials do have some precautionary tips.
The main thing would be to keep a safe distance from the car in front of you. And when you begin to stop, apply your brakes gently and release them till you slow your vehicle down. Once you lock your brakes up, you lose complete control of your vehicle.
Corporal Sims says bridges should be crossed with extreme care as they develop ice before the roads do.
Well, when you start to cross a bridge, if you'll gently release your gas pedal till you sort of coast more or less across the bridge and then resume your speed with your gas pedal, it'll avoid going into a skid.
In the past 25 days, the bypass detail has worked nearly 150 traffic accidents, 7 which occurred in yesterday's snowfall. Jane Matheson, WSFA TV News. The diamond lured lots of women and husbands into many jewelry stores across the country this Christmas. Jewelry retailers say diamond accessories were very good Christmas gifts this year, mainly because diamonds are still good investments. Jeweler Bill Halpern says diamond sales were up nearly 50% this year, despite the economy. In fact, Halpern says he's quite surprised at its selling rate.
It's a real big surprise. Although diamonds are a good investment. You don't see diamonds going down in price ever. So I feel that that's a large reason that we sold so many this year.
Halpern says the larger and round-shaped stones sold well this Christmas. He says the most popular selling ring is the diamond solitaire because it wears well on nearly every woman's finger. And Halpern says women were especially attracted to pearls this year.
Pearls go with anything. Pearls are a very good investment. You can wear them anytime, anywhere, and I believe that this is a large reason that they did so well.
Despite the tremendous increase in gold prices, gold jewelry didn't sell well, neither did silver or ring jewelry for men. Halpern says all women like to adorn at least one sparkling stone on their finger. He says that's probably why diamonds are still and will always be a girl's best friend. Kim Davis, WSFA, TV News. It was on this day, 70 years ago, that Lovey Simmons and Daniel Bishop Richburg took the sacred vows of man and wife in Laverne, Alabama, where they both were born and raised. They were neighborhood children playing together, attended the same church and elementary school together, and together they both raised 12 sons and daughters, ranging in ages from 49 to 68. Known as Mama Love and Daddy Bish, Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Richburg were joined by all of their 12 children, 24 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren to celebrate 70 years as husband and wife. Some family members journeyed from as far away as Detroit, Michigan, Denver, Colorado, and East Orange, New Jersey to attend the anniversary festivities. They received numerous gifts and telegrams and congratulatory messages from the governors of Alabama and New Jersey. Mr. and Mrs. Richburg claim it was love at first sight when they met and their faith in God that kept them together through the years.
I put my hand in the hand of the man that came to water.
Have you been happily married for 70 years?
Well, we may stay together 70 years. And we stayed in the same house 70 years.
With him for 70 years.
Well, I just run out the back door and come back in the front.
She was 16 years old, he was 19 when they married, and now at ages 86 and 89, they say they hope to celebrate 70 more years as Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Bishop Richburg. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News, Laverne, Alabama.
Well, this is probably one of the worst times that I've seen in the hog business.
If he can't get a fair return, I don't really know what's going to happen to the farmer.
That farmers cannot pass along their increase in costs just like manufacturers can. We have to either absorb the loss or else we go out of business if we can't make it.
Farmers have known it all year, and now year-end estimates confirm that 1980 was a very bad year for agriculture. Gross receipts from farm sales are projected to be down $155 million from 1979. Prices were up for most farm products, but yields were down. Farmers couldn't sell what they didn't have. Peanut yields down 53%. Corn yields down 34%. Soybean yields down 28%. And cotton yields down 20%. Cattlemen were hit hard also. Lower prices and fewer animals going to market resulted in beef sales being down $82 million. Hog sales dropped $13 million. Lower prices, especially in the first half of the year, caused the loss. With the economy declining and interest rates climbing, what can farmers look forward to? Auburn Extension Service Dean and Director Dr. J. Michael Sprott comments.
The results from 1980 most decidedly mean that there will be fewer farmers in Alabama in 1981 than there were in 1980. This is inevitable. It also means that the Alabama consumer will very likely be paying slightly higher for her food prices. Uncertainty will continue to be a constant companion to the Alabama farmer. This year we saw the uncertainty express itself in the form of reduced and in some cases non-existent rainfall during the very critical growing periods. That will continue with us. We most certainly hope for better weather next year, but We also have uncertainties on the increased input prices, which the farmers have no control over. We have the double uncertainty of little or no control over the value of the output that they sell. Our prices in Alabama are generally set by the larger agricultural estates. We're a price taker rather than a price maker for almost all of the commodities we produce. Consequently, the farmer is going to be faced with this uncertainty throughout the decade of the 1980s, the best we can determine. And it's the responsibility of Auburn University to work with Alabama agriculture to minimize the impact of these uncertainties, these risks and uncertainties as well.
These Civil Air Patrol cadets are actually high schoolers who spend about 2 hours a week learning leadership, aerospace education, and drill techniques. The teams have already won a state and regional competition before coming here for the national one.
To qualify to come to the National Cadet Competition, you must first compete in a wing tournament. Every state within the United States has a Civil Air Patrol wing. There are 8 Civil Air Patrol regions. The teams that win their state competition then go to the region competition. Only the 8 top teams in Civil Air Patrol get to come to the National Cadet Competition.
One of the qualifying teams is Montgomery's Danley Field Squadron. The teams are competing in drill, physical fitness, and education events. Here the cadets are performing an innovative drill where they have the opportunity to express themselves as a team.
If you have a team that's very enthusiastic and feels that they can show their most in a dynamic manner, then they may stomp their feet, clap their hands, and do almost anything you would do, even in a modern dance routine, where in the standard drill, they must do only those military formations that you have seen anytime you've seen any parade.
The overall winning team will receive the Air Force Chief of Staff Sweepstakes Trophy. It will be awarded in a ceremony tomorrow night. Jane Matheson, WSFA TV News.
December to have programs in different categories. In anticipating 1981,
I would like to say to the selection committee that we appreciate their confidence in us, in choosing us, and that we will do everything in our power to warrant that confidence. I would like to say to all the members of Rotary Club that we will get every dollar, every mile out of every dollar that we receive to the best of our ability. And also to the foundation that we will do everything within our power to sell memberships to the foundation for the ball. Jerry Spencer, who is our vice president, has already been introduced. I'll ask Jerry if he will to stand up again, please. Stand up, Jerry. Love to see you. We have with us
Between 6:20 and 6:15, sanitation workers came by, and they knocked on my door and woke me up and told me the house next door was on fire. And then they told me to call the fire department. and I came out and seen the fire, seen the blaze, and I went back in and called the police. I didn't call the fire department because I know the police no better than I did the fire department. So I called them, and then I came back out and then the fire department and police had got here.
I think we'd have to begin this year, of course, with January the 1st, 1980, which was the beginning of our implementation of the annexation program. We started delivering full city services to several areas this year, and of course that program will go on for several years of providing the goods and services to the newly annexed areas. We've been able to do that this year and provide those services without diminishing services to other areas of the city, and certainly I'm proud of that. This year has been a good year in the sense that I think that we have been able to deal with the crime problem in the city. I'll never be satisfied until we don't have any crime, but we've made strides in improving our crime ratio in the city of Montgomery. I think that mainly the best thing, of course, is that people of Montgomery have been able to lead a quiet and peaceable life, and I believe that's what most folks want.
You've been in a constant squabble with the federal government over community development funds and other federal funding. What is your views towards 1981 on community development funding?
Well, I stopped the community development program for 6 or 8 months and would not sign the papers to implement the drawing down of those funds because I thought that they were being arbitrary and in their decisions, and ultimately we made a settlement with them and proceeded with the program. If I had my druthers, and I hope President Reagan will follow through on it, I think that the country would be better served if they cut out community development funding as it is presently constituted and do away with levels of bureaucrats and levels of agencies that are not necessary, and cause it to be delivered to the cities and counties and states in the form of federal revenue sharing. I think that the local government can deal with problems a great deal better than the federal government.
It seems there's some question among some commissioners as to whether or not the King holiday is to be permanent or just for next year. Commissioner John Knight, sponsor of the bill, wants to make the holiday permanent, but Commissioner Joel Barfoot, who voted for the holiday, did so because he says he thought it's just for next year only. Commissioner Bill Joseph then made a motion to rescind the holiday resolution altogether, saying the county can't afford another legal holiday. But Commissioner Knight added a substitute amendment to Joseph's motion to include 3 state holidays, Robert E. Lee, Jefferson Davis's birthday, and Confederate Memorial Day. However, commissioners may not be able to legally do that, so they'll take up the holiday resolution next Monday. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
It's been 3 years since Williams' trial. The state Supreme Court upheld the conviction, but Williams still says he's innocent of attempting to bribe then-Senator Dudley Perry. The jury ruled that Williams offered Perry a job as attorney for the proposed Macon County Dog Racing Commission if Perry would support legislation requiring a referendum on the racing track. But Williams and his attorney say the trial was unfair.
The State Attorney General's office used all 13 of their strikes to strike nothing but blacks, leaving an almost all-white jury. There was one elderly black man, but the rest were all white. And we're saying that that's a violation of his Sixth Amendment right to an impartial jury. The second is we say that he was denied a preliminary hearing. Under the United States constitutional rights for due process, he should have been denied a preliminary hearing where he could have challenged venue and raised other questions. This trial should have been in Macon County among his peers, not here in Montgomery County among an almost all-white jury.
If Judge Gwaltney does not grant the stay, Williams must go to prison tomorrow, which he says is ironic because State Representative Thomas Reed is free. Reed was charged with being the principal conspirator in the bribery, but was found innocent. So Williams thinks it's unfair that he was convicted as an accomplice. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
What kind of things have you seen change with the implementation of this new code, and what kind of things do you think will change?
It's really too soon to be definitive, but we do know this, as in the case in the history of every state and every country, certain matters have become archaic or out of date. This new criminal code, which was worked on for many, many years, has modernized criminal laws so that now you don't go back to the horse and buggy days. That's going to cause some problems, and some of us in the judging and law enforcement and as lawyers, we're going to have to learn some new things. And the criminal code is going to have an impact on the criminal justice system, both at the trial level, when the case is first tried, as well as at the appellate level when that case is reviewed. But by and large, it's a forward, important piece of legislation that the legislature adopted in order to assist in the criminal justice system, and I think it's a good law.
That's the criminal side of it. Right. Of course, most of us, when we come into contact with the courts, it's on the civil side. Is there that kind of forward movement on the civil side, or is that sitting still while the criminal side moves ahead?
No, really, the civil side has already moved forward. For the past 10 years, more efficient procedures have been begun, more simplified procedures, so that the case, and this is very, very important, we have rules of procedure. And rule number 1 says that these rules are designed so that you have an efficient procedure so that the case is decided on the merits of the case. That's the issue, rather than on technicalities and pleadings, as has been the criticism in past years. So civil is pretty much modernized and is very liberal in terms of permitting citizens to come into court and to stay in court and not be thrown out.
Check the Christmas seal showing a man taking home his Christmas tree in a horse-drawn sleigh. It's Alabama's representative on the 1980 seals, and it was designed by a 4th grade pupil from Enterprise. Kelly Lynn Parker lives here. She's a 4th grade pupil at Hillcrest Elementary School, but when she created her Christmas seal picture 2 years ago, she was a 2nd grade pupil at Montgomery's Bear Elementary School. Kelly's picture was one of 6 entered from Alabama for the final selection by the American Lung Association. The daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Joseph P. Parker of Enterprise, she received a plaque from the association, which includes the 1980 Christmas seal winning pictures from the 50 states and 4 territories. It's a prize she displays proudly in the family den. The idea of Christmas seals originated 75 years ago as the American Lung Association's primary source of funds. The money was originally used to fight TB.